Thank you for joining me this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I do have a special announcement that I want to make to our Canadian friends and neighbors. I've got to tell you, folks, when I said that we here in America were going to fight any government that introduces a communist agenda to their people, I meant it. And we're going to do something significant that we hope will be of great help to the Canadian people. Now, during the past several weeks, I've received over 2,000 emails, dozens of videos, and other messages from Canadian citizens from coast to coast. What has been troubling me, ladies and gentlemen, is that these just aren't short letters saying, hey, thanks for your help. These are letters from sincere people whose hearts are broken, who are in fear for the future of their children, and frankly, they're terrified. I mean, really terrified by the actions of their government, the actions of the Trudeau government, actions that they're taking against their own citizens. Well, we also have received requests from Americans and others around the world. And I think I shared that with you a little early in the week. I wish I could show you the stack of letters I got with. They don't understand what's going on in Canada. They want to know what's going on. The Americans, especially, who have been in touch with me, are saying, hey, look, they're just north of our border. If it's happening in Canada, whatever's happening there can happen here. So can you get us some facts? Can you get us some testimonies? Can we talk to some of the Canadian people? And so with all these requests coming in, and the fact that the mainstream media, I don't know what's going on in Canada with your media, but I could tell you, there haven't been many news outlets in America, conservative and liberal or whatever, talking about what has been happening to the citizens in their country. And the fact of the matter is that Canadian citizens need to get their stories out, right? They need to let people around the world know that they are in danger of losing their freedom and liberty. I guess what astonishes me is that the media, not only here and media outlets around the world, either haven't been paying attention because of other world events or don't feel that this is a priority. But folks, I've got to tell you, what's happening in Canada is a priority because it's going to affect every single one of us who live in free countries. Now, going way back in the, I guess, late 19th century, early 20th century, especially during the Cold War, here in America, the way we were able to get information out to freedom-loving people was through Radio Free Europe. There were tyrants surfacing all over the place, communists surfacing all over the place. And they were doing a lot of blocking of the media into their country because they didn't want the truth about what their citizens were facing getting to the free world. So we had Radio Free Europe, and it was very, very effective, folks. Well, tonight, I'm going to introduce to you something that may be unique, something that we've been planning for weeks, but I haven't talked about it. It's something that I'm going to share with you right now. It is a version of our 21st century Radio Free Europe just for the Canadian citizens, because that's who we are addressing right now. Now, I'm going to put up a slide for 5 to 6 seconds, and then we'll get back to it later if you want to look at it. But this is going to be our version in our way of helping the Canadian citizens address the Trudeau government and the communist agenda that they are addressing. Here it is. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are putting together, or we have put together, a special broadcast that is going to be all Canadian. The fact of the matter is that people want to hear from the Canadians. I could talk about what's going on there. Other news media outlets can, but I think when you hear it from the people directly, I've got to tell you, it has impact. And that is something that any government is going to be fearful of. They're going to be fearful of first-person stories getting out to the world about how their government is treating them. So here's what we're going to need. We're going to help from the Canadian people on this one. Here's what we're going to need. We're going to need you to reach out to people in your country who have been arrested, who have been affected by these draconian laws. Look, we've got videos and we've got all kinds of information of people being arrested for exercising their free speech. I got to tell you, two things got me, folks, really bothered me. First, the arrest of pastors. the arrest of church leaders for praying with and giving spiritual messages to people at these events. I call them events because they're not violent protests. They are events that people are conducting within the framework of the law to support freedom and liberty. So if you could get some of the pastors that have been affected up there, and even pastors that haven't been arrested. I mean, I understand in Canada, there was a group of pastors, maybe 20, 30, I don't know the number, but a heck of a lot of them, who signed a letter and sent the Trudeau government condemning his actions. How about we get them on the air? Let the world know. We want the world to know what's going on there. Those pastors have credibility. All of you in Canada who worked so hard and protested have credibility. But this is what the Trudeau government and governments like his and tyrants like his don't want to get out. Well, we're going to get it out. So if you get those pastors on, we'll have truckers on like we had Chris the other day. I understand people's bank accounts are being frozen. The other thing that got me, I tell you, I had to kind of take a double on this one. There were a number of very, very good, if you will, Canadian citizens, not violent. In fact, I got to tell you, it was an amazing thing to see all these Canadian citizens with their flags at the Parliament Hill, I think you call it, right? And apparently the police there are reading some statements or handing these people flyers that they cannot fly flags. They couldn't fly flags that were expressing their views about Trudeau. Now, the only place that I've seen that happen before was in communist China. Seen it with my own eyes, folks, on TV, especially during Tiananmen Square. Back in the Cold War, I saw it happen in the Soviet Union. So doesn't that tell you something? That the people around the world need to know that even if you fly a flag within the framework of the law, exercising your freedom of liberty and speech, you're subject to arrest. They're telling the people in Canada, take the flag down. You see, the people of Canada, I want you to understand one thing, how we interpret this in America, and maybe you interpret it in your country. This shows us how fearful Trudeau is of you. They're afraid of you. They're scared of you. And those people in your parliament who are not standing up and shouting from the rooftops that this has got to stop, well, they should be ashamed of themselves. I've said that about American politicians here. I will continue to say that about American politicians. You see, in this country, there's one thing. Yes, we have a very strong constitution, and the people have gone out and we have raised flags and banners against our government, and that is something that has been upheld in our courts. And it's something that, hopefully, God, if it ever gets to your courts, it'll be upheld in your courts. But at the moment, folks, at the moment, politicians are more afraid of the court of public opinion than a court of law. That's right, folks, because they know you have the power, as we have the power. Watch the power we're going to employ in November of 2022 in the United States of America. The entire Democrat, Socialist, Communist Party is going to be wiped out. Wiped out, folks. They're going to be given their walking papers, their pink slips, whatever you want, are going to be wiped out. We can't interfere with your elections. It's against the law. But we can get the truth out about your government. And that's what we're going to do through this broadcast. Now, so we're going to ask you to do that. Now, we've also set up a special email. And that special email, in fact, I'll post it in a second again, is Canada@thepatriotdesk.com. Canada@thepatriotdesk.com. You send those emails to us. We keep them. And by all means, communicate with us through those, through that email. Send us, or the people you get in touch who want to be on the air, send us their names and contact information, and we will be in touch with them. Now, I could understand there's some Canadians who will be reluctant to come on the air. Believe me, I've went through this with people who fled communist China, and we were going to have some on the air, and they were so frightened. They wanted to get their story out, but they couldn't come on. So here's what we're going to do. Memorialize, meaning put your story in a letter form. Please keep it factual. This is very important. Put it in a letter form. And what we'll do, we read the whole letter. Don't make it so long that it will take up our whole, 20 minutes broadcast, but summarize to the best you could your story. We've had stories here. I told you a story that I'm going to look for again. Believe me, we had stacks of emails like this. It was a story from a Canadian citizen who was in prison, folks, in Iran. The most infamous prison in that country. And in Iran, those prisons that you get beaten, you get tortured. I mean, it's a horrible story. But his letter was so heartbreaking. And he told me that he fled to a country that he believed in, a country where he knew he would be free, where he could raise his children under a flag that represented freedom. And that country was Canada. He went to Canada. He told me he built a business, he lived a great life there, and he's frightened and scared to death over what is happening. And we've got stories here in America where people have come to America over the years to seek freedom and liberty. But folks, we've got to work together. The American people and the Canadian people have to work together. You know, we have so much energy by our government looking at the southern border. We have to start looking at the northern border, because the invasion at the southern border, and listen, I'm not talking about an invasion of people truly looking for freedom and liberty. They need to come here legally. And we've said that all along. But I'm talking about an invasion of an ideology that is very dangerous. But the thing about that ideology is it's not taking place that much on the southern border. It's taking place on our northern border. That ideology of Marx, Lenin, and Stalin could cross that border easily. We got to stop it. Within the framework of the law, we've got to help our friends and neighbors in Canada. The best way to help them right now is to educate the people around the world. Like I said, I get emails from people who live in Australia, New Zealand, Africa, Iceland, Greenland, Europe, Asia, every continent on this planet we're getting emails from. And I couldn't figure out why. Why would somebody in Australia, New Zealand, Europe be concerned about what's happening on America's border with Canada? And then it dawned upon me. The reason was the same reason why the world was faced with in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, during the Cold War, is that the ugly head of communism is surfacing on every single piece of real estate on this planet. And we've got to put it to a stop. And we can. So our first step is going to be, let's get the Canadian citizens who are willing to come on the air with me to come on. If they're not, let's get some letters here. If you're a Canadian citizen who knows a friend or a neighbor who would like them for you to read their letter without identifying them, or maybe not a Canadian citizen, you got friends in America. Nobody here in America is going to be arrested for exercising their right to free speech. Believe me, it's not going to happen. So we're trying every which way to get your story out, and we're going to do that. So I'm going to put this on the screen one more time before we. Okay, folks. So that's about it. So now a couple of important things. I'm going to try. Listen, I'll come out tomorrow night at Thursday, whether we have guests from Canada lined up or not, just to give you an overall view as to what we're doing again. But perhaps next Thursday we will launch this. But I'm confident we will have letters, and we will have hopefully a few guests come on tomorrow night. So that's it, folks. You know what? We're all in this together, and. I have a message here from Mr. Trudeau. Mr. Trudeau, you might want to listen to this. We, the people of the United States, we're going to work within the framework of the government with many of your citizens who you have terrified. And we're working within the law. A law, Mr. Trudeau, governed by who? Not by you, not by tyrants, but by the people, of the people, and for the people. Welcome to American power, Mr. Trudeau. Welcome to American ingenuity, and welcome to America's freedom. A power and ingenuity and freedom you have in your country in the hearts, minds, and souls of the people. The people will prevail. Liberty will prevail. Freedom will prevail. That's it, folks. Staff Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. It is very important you share this video with your friends and neighbors, anybody you can, and hopefully we'll be starting to get emails in within the next 24 hours. So listen, I'm going to sign off, but I'm going to put that slide, if you will, up there for about a minute so that you could jot down Canada at thepatriotdesk.com. That's Canada at thepatriotdesk.com. An email directly to us. It goes nowhere else. It stays with us. And hopefully tomorrow night we'll have a few Canadian citizens, one or two, come on and let's get the ball rolling, right, folks? Hey, let freedom ring. In the end, believe me, folks, in the end, I've said it over and over again, They lose and we win. And remember this, everything we do, everything you do, every valley you go through, remember there's a mountain to climb. And we climb it not only through our power, but what does the Bible say? Not by power nor by might, but by the Spirit, saith the Lord. We have a great and awesome and mighty God who loves to protect the gifts he gave us. And the gifts of freedom and liberty are gifts he gave us, are gifts he intends to secure and preserve for not only those of us in our time, but for our children and grandchildren in their time. Thank you. God bless you all. Hopefully see you tomorrow night. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.